Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for waiting. Welcome back to the Grayzone. It's another Grayzone live. Max Blumenthal here with Aaron Mate. I don't even know why I needed to say that. It's morning in America.
Well,
Communist jihadism has taken over the country.
exactly. It's mourning, as in like Mourning, because a lot of people are mourning today with the election of a guy who wants to give free buses to working people, and who happens to be Muslim, which is an absolute nightmare for some people in charge who can't handle that.
Daryl says I've never worked in a factory because I would be fired. Well, I was fired from a number of restaurant jobs. I didn't work in a factory. There weren't that many factories to find on the different coasts of the U.S. I've lived on.
And also, in fairness to factories, a factory is a lot different than a YouTube live stream. A lot different.
Well, we're like a fact factory.
Exactly. Yeah, we're a fact, but that's about it. Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, a lot to talk about. And I hope we'll be able to cover all the topics we said we were going to cover, because we are also hoping to talk to the filmmaker of a propaganda film by Beitar USA, the film that provides the first behind the scenes look at the most militant Zionist street group in the US by a member. So we are going to speak to someone who was a member of Beitar USA, who filmed very intimate interviews with its leadership, including about whether they think it's legitimate to threaten to bomb Zohran Mamdani's car. And how they got the Trump administration to deport or attempt to deport pro-Palestine student activists, and their role in boosting the career of everyone from Eric Adams, the outgoing New York mayor, to Richie Torres. So I think that's going to be an exciting interview. It's sort of, a coming out party for this first time filmmaker who made what I think is one of the most powerful pieces we've ever published at the Grayzone. But Zohran Mamdani is the mayor of New York. Former CIA agent is the new governor of Virginia. A former naval intelligence agent is the new Democratic governor of New Jersey. And the Democrats scored some big local wins elsewhere. Doesn't look very promising for the Republicans going into the midterms. And we didn't send a correspondent to Zohran Mamdani's victory party because, why the hell would we do something like that? And we didn't want to be sitting around talking to Hassan Piker all night. So, but we'll talk about it now. I mean, I'm mainly here for the meltdown. Aaron, what are your thoughts on the campaign that Zohran Mamdani ran and the significance of his victory? We actually highlighted his run very early on when he was polling at 1%, just because he was making some interesting videos about the collapsing support for the political duopoly and anger about oligarchy in the U.S.
Yeah, listen, I think he's a real talent, and I think this whole victory is exciting. There was a big grassroots movement behind him. A big source of the momentum for him was just absolute anger, outrage over the bipartisan support for the genocide in Gaza, on top of the fact that he centered real issues, unlike most of the Democrats. And whatever comes of him, personally, I don't think he'll become a sellout. I don't think we're looking at another Obama. Obama, after posing as the savior of the country and having a lot of grassroots support, basically shut down his grassroots apparatus and became a centrist technocrat like all the Democrats before and after him. I don't think Zohran Mamdani will do that. But even if I'm wrong on that, his victory alone, I think, is just something to celebrate because, as you said, look at all the people upset by it. All the people who have been using their great wealth to manufacture consent and obedience for the Gaza genocide, who don't want to see working people in power, don't want to see people of color involved in politics, immigrant communities. So just the symbolism of his victory alone, I think, is a wonderful thing. And Even if he does completely sell out, which I don't think he will, but even if he did, I'm still celebrating this victory because of what it represents.
I don't know what's to sell out. Like, I think the expectations have been set way too high, and I don't even know if he should be held entirely responsible for that. Selling out would mean not arresting Netanyahu if he comes to New York, not even stepping up, not getting rid of Israel bonds. It would mean not attempting to finance free bus fare for the city. It would mean capitulating to the landlords, the slumlords. But these are all sort of vague objectives that are reformist in nature. Democratic socialism closely resembles what the Democratic Party looked like before the Clinton era and definitely before the Jimmy Carter era. It's not that sweeping of a proposal that he's putting forward. I mean, even Ryan Grimm, someone who's been very enthusiastic and much more electoral minded than us, said the same thing, that, you know, he's not actually promising that much. I see it as sort of just a reformist campaign that he ran to take the party back before the neoliberal era, before developers and Wall Street were in charge of every policy, to stand more on the backs of unions. But it's not something like that radical. His opponents have made him out to be a communist jihadist, which I think is, you know, interesting and ironic in light of his father, Mahmoud Mamdani's work on the issue of communism and jihadism. His book, Good Muslim, Bad Muslim. I don't know if it's like around here, somewhere behind me. It helped inspire my book, The Management of Savagery. So I, you know, since he showed up on stage at the victory party, I decided that's what I'd call this stream. And because of, you know, the debate over Zohran Mamdani's religious heritage, the book is basically about how the CIA created the jihadist so-called terrorist threat that was invoked after 9/11 by the likes of Dick Cheney to justify a permanent global war and a unitary executive, which Donald Trump is now using to even justify regime change in Venezuela on the basis that its government are narco-terrorists, folding the war on drugs into the war on terror. So the idea that a communist jihadist could be mayor is just absolutely absurd. And it was, I think, these absurd formulations that were thrown at Mamdani, not just within the Democratic Party, but from the right, and the injection of Murdoch media and Donald Trump's forces into the New York campaign, along with Netanyahu's forces, Netanyahu's cutouts in New York City, that actually benefited him and fueled popular outrage at him and wound up tainting not just the political campaign of Andrew Cuomo, but Andrew Cuomo's entire legacy, which was like one scandal and neoliberal policy after another. And this is really the moment it started, when Mamdani was confronted with the essential logic of Zionism in a debate. We've showed this clip before, and I think this is really what put him, you know, vaulted him to the top. It was this exchange.
I would visit the Holy Land.
Given the hostility and the anti-Semitism, go to Israel.
Yeah, I'd make my fourth trip to Israel.
My goal would be to take my first trip to Israel.
Mr. Mamdani.
I would stay in New York City. My plans are to address New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs and focus on that.
Mr. Mamdani, can I just jump in? Would you visit Israel as mayor?
I will be doing, as the mayor, I'll be standing up for Jewish New Yorkers, and I'll be meeting them wherever they are across the 5 boroughs.
Yes or no, do you believe in a Jewish state of Israel?
I believe Israel has the right to exist.
Not
as a Jewish state?
No,
as a state with equal rights.
It was no, he won't visit Israel.
I answer questions
no.
very directly.
All right,
and I want to be.
That was brilliant. He showed, first of all, that he cares about the city that he's elected to represent, not a foreign apartheid state. And on the issue of Israel's so-called right to exist, he said, yeah, I believe in a state with equal rights, which exposes, as you said, Zionism for what it is, which is that it's supporting a state that's based on Jewish supremacy. And the fact that that triggered his opponents, but yet they couldn't really articulate why that was so angering them, because to do that, you have to admit that you support apartheid, you support a state that privileges one group over another, that really helped him out. And yeah, it was his opponents who made Palestine the issue. It wasn't a big part of his campaign, but because they're so triggered by his support for equal rights, for basic Palestinian rights, they made it a big issue, and that helped him tap into all the outrage there is over our political class's support for Israel.
And it was that which I'd been waiting for a candidate to get on stage with Democrats in the Democratic primary and declare that I am the only candidate that does not support apartheid. I'm the only candidate that supports sanctions on Israel. To actually distinguish yourself, they would benefit from so much popular energy and support. And so he did that. It goes back to his time as a student activist. He was organizing talks on Palestine and BDS when he was in college. And it goes back to the education he received under his father's watch. And he never really seemed to capitulate on that issue, even as he made enormous, I think went a little too far on the anti-Semitism issue, which we'll talk about in a second, because it's already, everything that I predicted last week is apparently happening with manufactured anti-Semitism incidents. But I think it's important to cover the meltdown on the day after. It's pretty hilarious. Here's one clip. This is the day, this is on election day, one of the most hilariously satisfying pieces of video posted by Lizzie Savetsky, who is one of the members of the 7K Mafia.
You want a sticker?
Yeah, I have a question. Why do you guys like crime so much?
We don't like
You
crime.
don't? No? So
No.
how do you feel about the NYPD?
So the woman who's harassing people in a fur coat posted this of herself. She was actually proud of herself behaving this way.
Yeah, good. You like crime? You like radical Islam? You like terrorism? Do you fund the NYPD?
No.
Oh, you don't? You know that Zohran has tweeted multiple times about defunding the police. You want to defund the NYPD?
I do.
Yeah, you do? That's good. I'm so glad to hear that you hate this city. Are you saving New York City from socialism?
Oh.
He's gonna bankrupt this city. Good luck. You too. Have a fabulous day.
So that's Lizzie Savetsky, who's one of those $7,000 per post influencers recruited by Israel. Her husband is a prominent plastic surgeon, which raises questions about his skill level. And she's obviously very wealthy, and she's screaming at New Yorkers on a street, looks like somewhere in like the West Village, about their willingness to vote for Zohran Mamdani. She's in a petulant frenzy. And and she's proud to post this.
Yeah.
And it really it encapsulates the behavior of his opponents perfectly. They just can't contain themselves. And the response was so New York from those people. They're just basically ignoring her like just another lunatic on the street, kind of jaded New Yorkers.
And by the way, I mean, he doesn't now call for defunding the police. He's walked that back during his candidacy for mayor. Some people might think that's a sellout move. I thought that was politically smart. If you look at the polls, I think that was a smart thing to do. And also, I mean, what he really says is we should not put all of our resources into policing. He wants to create a Department of Community Safety, which would, reduce the role of police in certain situations that are like nonviolent, basically, which I also think is smart. So,
well, how are you going to you're going to defund the police? Like the NYPD is a state within a state. It's bigger than most armies. He's not going to defund it. That wasn't what the call was about anyway. It was about reducing funding.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's not an abolitionist. He kept Jessica Tisch. That was the first major capitulation. Someone who is a pro-Israel Zionist, who's the NYPD police commissioner. He kept her on. So yeah, ridiculous. One prediction after another for another 9/11. Bill Ackman had some really revealing takes. I think we should get to those just before election night. I think he predicted a Cuomo victory.
Well, look, if you spend that much money on a race, you're going to want to return on your investment. You're going to want to be optimistic. because Bill Ackman and many other Jewish supremacist billionaires spent a lot of money, like more than $40 million, trying to defeat Zohran Mamdani. So, yeah.
I'm going to be an optimist and say Andrew Cuomo is going to get the win. But then if he doesn't, let's all blame Curtis Sliwa, which is ridiculous because Sliwa didn't even exceed the margin of error, or he didn't actually exceed the gap between Mamdani and Cuomo, as far as I know. And it's not everyone who's going to vote for Sliwa would have otherwise voted for Cuomo because they're curious about Cuomo's policies on COVID. So it's absurd. I don't know if Bill Ackman had some deal with Polymarket here. Or this was it related to some short, which led him to predict the Cuomo victory. But there was absolutely no evidence anywhere that Cuomo was going to come close. And then Mamdani wins and Ackman suddenly loses his fastball. Congrats on the win. Now you have a big responsibility. If I can help New York, just let me know what I can do. Unfortunately, Bill Ackman it doesn't look like he's going to be leaving New York.
So Bill Ackman, after campaigning so viciously against Mamdani and supporting all the Islamophobic smears against him, now offers to help out Mamdani. I mean, how much do you want to bet that right as he's sending out that tweet of conciliation to Mamdani, he's also like sending off missives to his aides on like what's next and how we can bring this guy down? I just don't buy that now he wants to make nice. But
I asked him if he bribed Eric Adams or he knows who did, because he praised Eric Adams as a study in elegance in class for dropping out of the race.
Yeah.
I mean, Eric Adams doesn't do anything unless you bribe him. Anyway, no response from Ackman yet.
It was actually closer than I thought. I mean, Mamdani got over just over 50%. Cuomo and Sliwa together still would have lost, but only by like a few percentage points. So this wasn't like a total landslide, or at least as much as I expected. But at the same time, turnout was unprecedented, almost double the turnout of the last mayoral election. And Mamdani got more than 1 million votes, which is more than anyone's gotten in many, many decades. So he does have a mandate. And that's a problem for people like Bill Ackman and many other Zionist billionaires who tried to stop him.
Zohran Mamdani, one of the takes was, he won over the PMC gentrifier, downwardly mobile class who thinks they're working class because they have student loans and they work as like baristas or something. Like, well, he did win that group of people over. He also won the Bronx, which he did not win in the primary against Cuomo, I think. He won a majority of the black vote, which he didn't win in the primary. He won a majority of Latinos who are not, Latinos in New York, Dominicans, Puerto Ricans. That's not who's being described among that PMC class. He obviously won a large number of Asians, like South Asians voted for him. Muslims in New York came out and voted for him in record numbers. He won, I think, more votes than any Democrat has won in a long time. He won districts all across the city that are not gentrifier districts. He got clobbered in Staten Island, which is where all the cops live, and he narrowly lost white people. And I wonder what his percentage of Jewish votes was. I suspect it could have been a majority.
Well, the New York Times said it was about a third, but
he won 1/3 of Jews.
Yeah, at least 1/3. But yeah, I suspect it could be more. Somebody who was really surprised at that it was Trump's so-called envoy for combating anti-Semitism, Leo Terrell. Let's bring this up. He's shocked. 30% of Jewish Americans voted for Mamdani! Exclamation mark. Why? And then multiple question marks. He just can't believe it.
All Jewish. I didn't vote for him because I couldn't. Leo Terrell is like the low rent Van Jones.
Yes, exactly. And he's
rental Van Jones.
He's literally Trump's envoy for combating anti-Semitism, which is literally one of the fakest positions any government has ever created in world history, because all you're doing, is trying to silence critics of Israel in the name of anti-Semitism, and you're actually spreading anti-Semitism in the process by conflating Israel with Jews. So no surprise that he can't understand why some Jewish people, at least 1/3, if polls are to be believed, voted for Mamdani.
So 33% of 35% of New York voted for him. It kind of contradicts, it definitely cuts against the idea that there's a Jewish vote. There's a lobby, but not a vote.
Exactly. Should we go through some more hits? I mean,
I mean, just a few. There's so many, it's hard to keep track of. They all kind of blend into one.
All right, here's just one of the biggest intellectual frauds in the world. Bernard Henri Lévy, a French writer. All New Yorkers. All New Yorkers at heart. Oh, Max, you want to do the honors? Go ahead.
No, you do it.
Well, maybe you want to do his pretentious French accent.
If I wait, I have to do this. Like,
unbutton your shirt. Yeah. Also, get on your heels to look, as tall as possible.
All New Yorkers at heart are in mourning today. Wait, but you're a French Canadian. You're kind of Quebecois, aren't you?
Yeah, and actually, what's funny is your French accent sounds very Israeli.
Nothing justifies anti-Semitism.
That's good.
No social program. No concern for minorities. Nothing. Mr. Mamdani's anti-Semitism is not an opinion. It is a crime.
That's very good. That's
Dominique Strauss-Kahn is my friend. He raped hundreds of women. I'm starting to talk like Israeli. Many Israeli I know, they pretend to be French and they open a restaurant and say they're Mediterranean. So people go there and don't know they're supporting genocide machine.
That's very good. That's very good.
So wait, there's a lot going on there.
Yes.
How can all New Yorkers at heart be in mourning today if he won the election? Like many of them voted for him.
Well, I think he means that like the true New Yorkers, the ones at heart, like people like him, like French intellectuals like him, they're the real New Yorkers at heart, whereas the actual residents of New York are not New Yorkers.
Right. So he's a New Yorker at heart.
Yes.
He's a real New Yorker.
Yeah.
Bernard Henri Lévy.
Yeah.
Like he used to run the block on 125 in Amsterdam, BHL. Yeah, BHL was he was like the 5th member of MOP in Brownsville.
Oh God! All right, there's so many.
I mean, what he's calling it a crime that he was elected, basically, that he should be criminalized.
Yeah.
This is unhinged, and it's foreign interference. It's French interference.
Well, that's the thing. Speaking of foreign interference, that's just what I find it's so brazen that even Chuck Schumer can acknowledge that he opposed his own party's nominee because of a foreign government. This is from the New York Times, talking about why Chuck Schumer did not endorse Mamdani. People close to Schumer say that Schumer's decision to stay on the sidelines of the race was driven in large part by his self-conception as a guardian of Israel. So Chuck Schumer didn't endorse...
Shomer. He calls himself Shomer.
Shomer, yes.
Which means
does Shomer mean guardian?
It means protector in Hebrew.
Protector, yeah. So Chuck Schumer is admitting that his fidelity to a foreign apartheid state superseded his own city and his own party and his own constituents. It's just unbelievable. But I love the honesty, and Chuck Schumer. Hopefully, the fact that Mamdani won again. This wasn't just about Palestine for his voters, because he's so much more than that. And he didn't center Palestine in his campaign, but hopefully, this is the start of a new era where someone in Chuck Schumer's position, it won't be tenable for them to prioritize Israel anymore over everything else, as Chuck Schumer does, versus someone like Mamdani, who benefited from opposing genocide, from opposing apartheid. Hopefully, that's the start of a new trend.
It was pretty funny last night watching CNN. I don't have the footage of it, but Rahm Emanuel was on a panel with Bill de Blasio, who is one of Mamdani's biggest backers. And you could tell Emanuel was so unhappy. And Jake Tapper was hosting, and Jake Tapper was seething. And Bill de Blasio was like on the verge of having an orgasm. I mean, it was pretty hilarious. Rahm Emanuel, same thing. Despises Mamdani because of his views on Israel, where Rahm Emanuel lost a finger in a kitchen accident where he was pretending to be a soldier. And it's the same with Hakeem Jeffries, although he praised his victory. Hakeem Jeffries has been aptly referred to as AIPAC Shakur.
Yes.
I mean, these guys are creations of the Israel lobby. There's another issue here, which is that they are afraid that Mamdani will be hung around their neck by the Republicans as a kind of albatross come midterms and the national election, and they'll use him to paint the Democratic Party as communist jihadists among white people in swing districts, and it'll cost them, which is just a great attitude to have after you've lost so many elections pursuing the centrist strategy. And so what they're trying to do is point to Abigail Spanberger, the former CIA agent and centrist governor of Virginia, who beat a Republican in what is increasingly a blue state. Like there's almost a super majority in the Virginia House of Delegates for the Democrats. They're trying to paint Spanberger, who's so boring, gave the most boring, long-winded acceptance speech. They're trying to paint her as the future of the party. And she actually underperformed. And I love how like they say, oh, Mamdani's experience, he lacks experience. Spanberger's experience, we don't even know what it is. She became a CIA officer in 2006. And so there's this whole missing part of her bio where we don't know what she was doing. And that's her experience. And same with Mickey, what's her name? Mickey Sherrill in New Jersey, naval intelligence. So that's what the Democrats want to put forward. The Republicans want to make the national election about Mamdani. That's partly why this freak out is taking place. And I think it will alienate people against Trump. Anyway, let's see a few more. I think you're muted. For some reason, we can't hear Aaron. He was just putting up the Democrats for pro-Israel majority statement, which is pretty hilarious. Oh, you're back?
I'm back.
Okay, welcome back.
Okay. All right. So yeah,
you're looking well.
Thank you. Thank you. This is from the Democratic Majority for Israel. This is so funny. I'm sorry if it's a little hard to read, but basically in the first paragraph, they brag about how strong mainstream Democratic pro-Israel governors, Abigail Spanberger and Mickey Sherrill, who we just talked about, won their states, right? So in these states, in Virginia and New Jersey, pro-Israel people won, and that's a great thing, okay? So they're celebrating the fact that these two candidates who won in these states are pro-Israel. The very next paragraph, and this speaks to just the complete absence of self-awareness that Zios have. They turn to Zohran Mamdani, and they say, at the same time, while we congratulate Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, we urge him to prioritize fulfilling his campaign promises to bring down costs, not foreign policy issues that are unrelated to the everyday lives of most New Yorkers, okay? So Zohran Mamdani, okay, he can't get into foreign policy, obviously, because he's critical of Israel and its genocide campaign. In the first paragraph, though, the two pro-Israel candidates, they can be congratulated because they're pro-Israel. It's just like the lack of self-awareness is just unbelievable.
Yeah, Democratic Majority for Israel is basically an AIPAC appendage inside the party.
Yeah.
You constantly attacked him, and now they're like saying they're ready to work with him. They got to bow down on some level. Go ahead.
Here's the fraud father, Jonathan Greenblatt of the Anti-Defamation League, aka the Apartheid Defense League. In light of Mayor-elect Mamdani's long disturbing record on issues of deep concern to the Jewish community, we will approach the next 4 years with resolve. And the ADL has just announced that they're going to have some new like Mamdani tracker where they're going to especially look at who he's appointing to come. The
Mamdani monitor.
The Mamdani monitor, yeah. So what they're going to basically do is try to cancel and dox and harass any Mamdani staffer who believes Palestinians are equal human beings. That's essentially what this comes down to.
I'm looking at it right now. They don't have anything about him up, but they claim they have 976 anti-Semitic incidents in New York City, the highest count of any U.S. city since ADL began tracking such incidents. The problem is the ADL defines an anti-Semitic incident as a pro-Palestine chant or a pro-Palestine rally. In other words, an anti-genocide rally is an anti-Semitic incident. No wonder they were so high that year. What else was going on? Oh yeah, Israel was carrying out various anti-human incidents by murdering children with quadricopters as they went to fetch a pail of water in Gaza.
And this is where Mamdani, I think the one part of his victory speech last night that I, wasn't a fan of was when he talked about the scourge of anti-Semitism. Given that the, biggest fear-mongering about anti-Semitism conflates anti-Semitism with criticism of Israel, as you just talked about, then, I think it's a mistake to play into it. Like to the extent there's a scourge of anti-Semitism, it's a scourge of groups like the ADL weaponizing the legacy of anti-Semitism to try to silence critics. And I don't think he should play into that. I think he's got to call out these people for what they are, just fraudsters, and that he's not going to be intimidated by them, and that they can't get away with conflating criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism. And maybe for a Muslim to do that, he doesn't feel comfortable, but then he should get his Jewish surrogates to do that and do that more forcefully. Because, as we saw with Jeremy Corbyn, you can't give these people an inch. It's not a matter of reasoning with rational people. They're just fraudsters. And there's no point in at all catering to their fraudulent narrative.
So on that note, there is an anti-Semitic incident just a day after Zohran is elected, and Zohran rises to the occasion. I mean, I don't know what else he's supposed to do unless, they can determine who did this. Oh, I have to click some extra. StreamYard has changed, and you have to do more to get things on screen. Sorry about that. This is Isaac Chua, who's a member of a Jewish congregation in Brooklyn, far out in Brooklyn, where the Syrian Jewish community lives. And there's a swastika there. You can see it on the window, was spray painted on the window. This is a disgusting and heartbreaking act of anti-Semitism, and it has no place in our beautiful city. As mayor, says Zohran Mamdani, I will always stand steadfast with our Jewish neighbors to root the scourge of anti-Semitism out of our city.
And scroll down so we can see the swastika. Let's click. Yeah. So there's a yeshiva and someone painted a swastika on it. And yeah, listen, Max. So last week on our last stream, you talked about false flag events done to delegitimize Mamdani and try to corner him on this contrived anti-Semitism thing. And I think it's totally fair to speculate that this is one of those. This is what they do. We've seen them do this before. I mean, we called out. Remember on that stream of one of my favorite moments of a Grayzone stream is when we were watching the video of two guys with their faces concealed in keffiyehs, and they're saying, "We're gonna do October. Never forget the 7th of October. We're gonna do it 1,000." These are Jewish guys pretending to be Palestinians, or
every part of their face was covered.
Yeah.
They were wearing Palestinian flags, like football hooligans.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised that this is exactly that as well. These people are so desperate, and they do this. There's a long history of this, and going back to the early days of Zionism, where Zionists literally bombed synagogues in Arab countries to try to encourage emigration of Jews in countries like Iraq to Palestine, to steal Palestinian land. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if that Zionist legacy is continuing now in New York City.
Here's some incidents of staged swastikas over the months and last 2 years. Another swastika GW, this is 2015. This one was posted by a Jewish student. Jewish woman busted for scrawling swastikas in Brooklyn's Borough Park. 2022. Hate crime at Jewish cafe was all fake, police say now. 2019. Jewish man arrested after spray painting swastikas on his own home in upstate New York. 2017. And on and on. I remember actually when I was given I was offered a speech at the Toronto Public Library by Penn Canada to talk about my book on Gaza. The Operation Protective Edge, the 51-day war. And, you know, it was considered scandalous that Penn Canada was honoring me in any way for my work. And the Jewish Defense League, which is basically a terrorist organization historically connected to the Kahanist movement in Israel, came out, brought out guys with shaved heads and combat boots, all seated like in the front row to try to intimidate me. They're actually a bunch of clowns. And right before my speech, and they had riot police like surrounding me. It was crazy. Right before my speech, I went to the bathroom in the public library, and I saw there was a guy in there from the JDL with his little combat boots on, and he was scrolling swastikas all over the bathroom stalls. I'm like, and I just looked at him. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And he looked like so ashamed that I caught him. But obviously he was trying to do the same thing. Oh, we're going to make it look like Max Blumenthal's emboldening anti-Semites and bringing anti-Semites out. I mean, even the like anti-Semites of today, they don't look like the neo-Nazis of old. They don't tend to look like that. And the idea that one of them is going to go I mean, it's possible. Maybe it happened. I don't know. Maybe someone just went all the way down. What's the line you have to take all the way down to like Ocean Park? You got to take a long subway ride down there or sit in traffic for a long time down Ocean Parkway to get to one of those synagogues, and then just spray some swastika on there the day after Mamdani's elected, just because you feel emboldened. Like, oh, Mamdani got elected. Now we're going to take out the Jews. That's what we're going to do. That's the bat signal came. Like, it just seems so implausible. And yet Bernard-Henri Lévy is calling Mamdani a crime now. They're doing all the predictable attacks are coming in, and Mamdani, his first statement as mayor-elect is about anti-Semitism. So they're already kind of like doing what I predicted in order to dictate the conversation, the narrative, and the direction that he goes in. There was also a phony a manufactured terror plot in Michigan in Dearborn by the FBI. They don't even know what the plot is, according to FBI statements. They don't even know that whether it was active or not. And yet they staged a military-style raid on a home in Dearborn and claimed that jihadists were going to attack on Halloween. The only thing they know is that 2 Muslim men were at a gun range, and they mentioned Pumpkin Day, according to it's not even an indictment, it's a criminal complaint. So look for more of that. I just know which direction they're going to go. It's the same playbook year after year after year. And it's time someone stands up against it. Alex Soros is causing a lot of controversy. Did you see that one?
Alex Soros? No, I did not.
I forgot to get it in the notes. Here we go. Well, I think he should have released this during the campaign. So proud to be a New Yorker. The American dream continues. Alex Soros is like, it's like, I don't know what to compare him to, but he always posts these pictures of Democratic politicians kissing the ring in his apartment, which doesn't look like an apartment any New Yorker can afford, where he's towering above New York. He doesn't look like someone who just rose up to that level of penthouse like George Jefferson did and finally got a piece of the pie. He looks the part of nepotism. He is the perfect foil for the right wing and all of its billionaires who control all of its policies. And he decides to post this the day after Mamdani, or the moment Mamdani gets elected, and it taints his victory. But there's a reality there. Of course, Mamdani's working with Soros. Soros funds the entire party from top to bottom. And people close to Mamdani people who've come out of Open Societies Institute are working very close with Mamdani, very closely with him. And they're sort of a bridge between him and Obama. That's just the reality. Again, he's not like a socialist candidate. He's not going to be able to do actual socialist things. He's a reformist candidate. he's trying to bring some basic reforms to New York. So this doesn't shock me in any way, but it's being treated as a scandal. And of course, it gives the right what they want. It makes him seem like controlled opposition, whether he is or not. I think it's kind of like, why do that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, my problem with the right and their critique of Soros is they critique the Soros family for the wrong reasons. Like, I do think the Soros family through Open Society has some projects that are,
Detestable. I mean, he's an anti-communist billionaire.
Well, I was going to say otherwise. I was going to say like some of their projects are actually, I think, are noble, like domestically. I think they fund some good things, like on criminal justice, I think, and on immigrant rights. I think they fund some, but on foreign policy, obviously, they've helped destabilize foreign governments on behalf of the U.S., and that's where they've done a lot of damage. But the right doesn't oppose them for that. What I'm saying is I think the right sometimes opposes the Soros money for things that I think are actually laudable.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's unfortunate that any billionaire sets the agenda, but they're setting the agenda in the Democratic Party. They're setting it in the Republican Party. George Soros is an imperialist wizard, as Covert Action Quarterly put it. And that's a legendary piece written in 2001. Go back to that to see what a slime bag George Soros is. But we despise him for reasons that are totally different from the right. I mean, as far as taking on socialism is concerned, he's actually been opposed to socialist governments all around the world, including the one in Venezuela. Open Societies Institute has kicked in millions of dollars to support the radical putschist Venezuelan opposition. Nicaragua, Cuba, they've been all over that. Syria, Soros has openly called for regime change in Syria. And obviously Russia, he is a mortal enemy of Putin and wants to see Russia balkanized so he can make off with their assets. And that's why Zohran Mamdani is not a third worldist, as his father is critiqued as. He's not someone who actually wants to challenge Western hegemony. Let's just do away with that idea. Go ahead.
I mean, I don't know we don't know what's in his heart.
No, we do.
But I mean,
he went to South Florida, Aaron, and called Maduro a vicious dictator.
Okay. Well, where I agree with you is that he's certainly not going to be like governing as like an anti-imperialist. I agree with you. He's going to be a reformist, moderate candidate. And yeah, I mean, there's no dispute there. I agree with you that the hype around him from the right of being like a Marxist and all that, it's totally overblown. He's pretty reformist in his political orientation. I'm saying that I've never talked to him, so I don't know what he actually really believes. In the past, I've seen him tweet some great things on the anti-imperialist front that I really agree with, but it's not as if I think that's ever going to translate to his policies in office.
Yeah, sure. I think Zohran Mamdani doesn't want to deal with those issues. When he was in South Florida, he's put on the spot, so he says the most predictable thing you can say to make sure that he doesn't catch any heat from the Gusano industrial complex. And he's ceding ground on the anti-Semitism issue as well. He said he will have Zionists working for him. He's not taking a militant line on these things. That's why I'm not really that focused on electoralism, and I'm not going to get caught, popping champagne and doing shots at the bar with Hassan Piker at his victory party or whatever, because I just, I feel like I'm tempering my expectations, and I know what's possible in American politics, and it's really not that much. And there was someone whose name I was groping for, like Andrew Cuomo was groping campaign aides allegedly, and it's Patrick Gaspard. He was the head of Open Societies for several years, and he's now an advisor to Zohran Mamdani. So this is like well-known stuff, and he came to Mamdani, I think, through an Obama connection. Obama, by the way, has refused to endorse Mamdani. So it's a defeat for the Israel lobby. It's a blow to them. It's a blow to their sense of control. It's a blow to that wing of the Democratic Party that they can't control the largest city in the U.S. It's a sign of things to come, including generational shifts, demographic shifts in blue states. And I don't think there's much Mamdani can do to implement a militant socialist agenda, let alone to make New York more affordable despite his best efforts, because the forces arrayed against him are enormous. And where can you make housing more affordable in New York? It would have to be like in the outer boroughs by building more housing, unless you can really, really take it to the developers. And that would be a massive fight. I think it would mean he has to win several terms.
You know, can I say one more thing about the issue of Zohran Mamdani in Cuba and Venezuela? Because I'm just reading about it now. And initially, he was interviewed by Jorge Ramos, the journalist who infamously tried to interview Maduro and got, and they basically tried to corner Maduro with all the typical regime change talking points. And then you had a run-in with Max. And in that interview, he actually didn't take Jose Ramos's bait. He declined. He said, I haven't really thought much about Cuba and Venezuela. And he didn't call them a dictator then. And then after there was an uproar, and then the campaign issued a statement. So that's what I'm saying is, like, I don't know what's in Mamdani's like own heart. And yeah, politicians will sometimes then be pressured to make certain statements that they might not necessarily agree with. And that strikes me as what happened here. I don't think he's like your typical Democrat when it comes to foreign policy. I think he has certain instincts that obviously then get tempered when he has to deal with the reality of the campaign and how hard it is to like have an openly anti-imperialist position. And I'm not trying to say that this like means he's like that I share all of his politics, but I just don't think, in terms of ranking all the Democratic Party sellouts, I just don't think he belongs in the same category as all the normal politicians we're used to, including Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, well, I'm almost out of things to say about this, and I don't want to be unfair to anyone, but my expectations are low because it's U.S. politics. Right. And at the same time, it culturally is a positive sign. Suggests there's more possibilities out there for other candidates. There's a civil war going on the right now, and it's because Trump is president. There's a civil war taking place on Israel, and because Trump has been so Israel first, it's cartoonish. This will return to the Democratic Party if a Democrat secures victory in 2028. And Mamdani is also a proxy for that fight, for that coming fight. So I think the reason to focus on this election and to be interested in it isn't purely because he pledged to freeze the rents and so on. It's because it is a sign of something much larger taking place, a cultural and political shift. And I question whether there will be even one candidate who will take it as far as he has on the issue of Israel-Palestine in the Democratic primary in 2028. And if there isn't, it's going to damage the party and depress turnout. So I definitely want to talk about the civil war on the right that's taking place. There's probably even more to say about that than about this election, unless you have anything to add here.
Here's one thing I thought was funny. All of a sudden, Trump now is sounding like Mamdani. He says the day after the election, affordability is our goal, right? And like, what was the centerpiece of Mamdani's campaign? It was affordability. So that's Trump, I think, recognizing that Zohran Mamdani's message actually resonates with people beyond, progressives in New York City. I mean, Trump promised to lower grocery prices, do all those things. But of course, what has he done for working people? Nothing. He's taken away Medicaid. He's now denying people food assistance through SNAP. That's been cut off because of the shutdown. And but the fact that he even feels pressured to declare now that he supports Zohran Mamdani's like key promise, that's a good sign, I think. And that's one thing I'm really happy about in all of this. And hopefully not just Trump, but Democrats follow suit. Like, that's where I think Zohran Mamdani could play a really positive role in U.S. politics, like whatever else you think about him.
Well, it shows he lost the shutdown fight. Most Americans, according to every poll I've seen, are blaming Trump for the shutdown, and they're unhappy about it. And it's going to be the longest shutdown in history. And it's going to start resulting in the termination of programs that fund heating for poor people. So along with the grocery prices going up, affordability was actually one of Trump's campaign promises. So that's gone. All of the campaign promises that brought people over who were independents, a small percentage of Black and Latino people, a few Democrats, some Democrats in swing districts. That's all of that is gone. And he was damaged last night, badly damaged. So yeah, I think that we can attribute his shift in messaging to his failure in the shutdown. Most Americans aren't blaming the Democrats. So yeah, I think the midterms don't look good for Trump, and that will have international implications as well on going to war, on whether Israel can lean on Trump to bail it out of another attack on Iran. And it's worth keeping in mind. So do you want to talk about what's happening on the right?
Yeah, well, there's been a big push on the right to basically cancel Tucker Carlson because of his increased criticism of Israel. And I guess like a galvanizing incident was the president of the Heritage Foundation making some statement, like saying like, we're not going to cancel Tucker. I guess we can play some of that. This is Kevin Roberts, president of the Heritage Foundation. I actually haven't seen this, so this will be
coming days. But today I want to be clear about one thing. Christians can critique the state of Israel without being anti-Semitic. And of course, anti-Semitism should be condemned. My loyalty as a Christian and as an American is to Christ first and to America always. When it serves the interest of the United States to cooperate with Israel and other allies, we should do so with partnerships on security, intelligence, and technology. But when it doesn't, conservatives should feel no obligation to reflexively support any foreign government, no matter how loud the pressure becomes from the globalist class or from their mouthpieces in Washington. The Heritage Foundation didn't become the intellectual backbone of the conservative movement by canceling our own people or policing the consciences of Christians. And we won't start doing that now. We don't take direction from comments on X, though we are grateful for the robust free speech debate. We also don't take direction from members or donors, though we are inherently grateful for their support. And we're adding more every day. This is the robust debate we invite with our colleagues, our movement friends, our members, and the American public.
all right. Well,
Seems like a good statement on its face. I think it's a little more complex than that, but just to cover what's happened in the last few days and hours, Kevin Roberts has backtracked. Kevin Roberts is the head of the outsourced brain of the Republican Party, the Heritage Foundation. The Heritage Foundation is located a few blocks from Capitol Hill. It's the most influential think tank in America, probably. It's more influential than any Democratic Party think tank. All the Republican policies, Project 2025, it all came out of there, going back to the 1980s. Future Hill staffers, they sleep in the dorms that the Heritage Foundation has established right next to Union Station. And they're sort of trained and drilled in how to be effective Republican apparatchiks and operatives. There's nothing like it. So it's highly significant that he is welcoming a debate, which is ostensibly about Israel, but which goes much deeper than that. And he's sticking up for Tucker Carlson, who I assume he has a long-standing relationship with, who has a relationship with the Heritage Foundation. The Heritage Foundation is also responsible for Project Esther, which was a straight-up call for criminalizing pro-Palestine activism and was a blueprint for all of the persecution we see under the Trump administration, the federal persecution of anti-war and Palestine solidarity groups. So Roberts comes under pressure from the inside. This is Kurt Mills from American Conservative. He's being literally extorted, according to Mills. His original video statement where he said that Israel criticism isn't necessarily anti-Semitism. is facing extortion from subordinates in his own ranks. And who are those who are threatening the Heritage Foundation and the Anti-Semitism Task Force? It's Pastor Luke Moon, a Christian Zionist pastor, Victoria Coates, who was the main author of Project Esther, Eli Kohanim, who we've talked about before, who's like a Likudnik operative, and another Christian Zionist pastor. And they demanded that he delete that video statement that you just saw, which everyone has already seen. I mean, it wouldn't matter if he deleted it at this point. There have been several high-level departures from the Heritage Foundation, resignations. And I think like 2 hours ago, Roberts issued an apology. Can I get this on screen? Man. He said, I made a mistake and I let you down and I let down this institution, period, full stop.
And the mistake is what? Calling for free speech and saying he's not going to be intimidated by pro-Israel donors. That's the mistake.
He was asked to condemn this. Nick Fuentes, the guru of the Groypers, was invited onto Tucker Carlson's show and went up to Maine where Tucker lives, and they had a very friendly interview following a personal war between Tucker and Nick Fuentes. And Roberts defended Tucker's right to host Nick Fuentes, which was taken by his antagonists as an endorsement of Nick Fuentes' views as a streamer who has not been very sympathetic to Jews. So it's not just about Israel. I mean, Nick Fuentes talks about Jewish power, Jewish influence, the Jewish religion, that the Talmud instructs Jews to carry out devious acts. He's very open about that. And he was welcomed by Tucker and by like a who's who of right-wing or right-leaning podcasters, like the major ones, all within the course of like a month. So that's what this is about. And I think, the real target here is not Nick Fuentes per se, although it will be in the future. The target was Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is the number one target of Israel. Tucker Carlson is hated by Netanyahu. They fear him too. He's a very credible right-wing voice who spoke at the Republican convention, who's been close to Trump, who is now I think up until the Fuentes interview, in a very tactical way, helping to bring out long-standing conservative opposition to Israel controlling the U.S. government. When you bring Fuentes in there, you're waving the red flag and you're giving your enemies sort of what they want in order to portray you as an anti-Semite. They took the hole and ran right through it. And it's just been nonstop. Notice the attacks are on Tucker, not Nick Fuentes per se. But it has benefited Fuentes and benefited the Groypers to see how much influence he's attained, and that someone like Tucker, whose family was denigrated and dehumanized by Nick Fuentes, basically stood down and made nice with him at his home. This has elevated Fuentes' profile. I actually should have brought this on screen. I think it was Michelle Goldberg in the New York Times called Fuentes the new Charlie Kirk. Here it is. And I mean, this is major in a way, but it's also strategic on the part of a writer like Michelle Goldberg, who represents a faction of the Democratic Party. Nick Fuentes was Charlie Kirk's bitter enemy. Now he's becoming his successor, and they have this photo that makes him look like he's walking into, like he's a celebrity, like he's James Dean, like he's a character in Zoolander. And why would someone like Michelle Goldberg, who's a stalwart Democrat at the New York Times, who kind of understands what's going on in the right better than most liberal columnists, why would she say this? It's because the Democrats want to build Nick Fuentes up so that they can try to hang him around the neck of the GOP in 2028, and specifically around the neck of J.D. Vance, the way that the Republicans are doing with Zohran Mamdani and the National Democratic Party. That's their play right here. But for Fuentes and the Groypers, it's like a great moment. They have triumphed. And he, triumphed over Tucker Carlson when Tucker Carlson, he started the fight. He threw the first punch. He called Nick Fuentes like a weird gay kid who's possibly a Fed. And now Nick Fuentes is on what Groypers call a generational run. He's been on like every podcast, Glenn Greenwald, Red Scare, Patrick Bet-David, what else? Dave Smith. And this is a guy who was considered so toxic to anyone remotely close to mainstream political culture just a few years ago, who was associated with the Charlottesville riot, was associated with, they would, just call him a Nazi. He's now mainstream and very influential. So that's why this happened. And now there's a full-on civil war on the right, which is larger than anything that happened previously, where, for example, we saw the National Review kick out Joseph Sobran because of what Sobran said about Jewish influence and Jewish power, or the National Review under Buckley, who is a complete Israel tool, attacking Pat Buchanan, the whole war over Buchananism. The neocons won that fight. There's another reason this is happening too, which is Israel just spent 2 years committing genocide, and people on the right and left who've been paying attention on social media are disgusted, and they're disgusted with seeing their government just fall into line. So this is a moment where I think the neocon Likudnik faction in the right is making this is like their Normandy landing. They want to put this to bed completely. And what they want to do is drive Tucker out. It's about Tucker, using Nick Fuentes to drive out Tucker. And so that played out all at the Republican Jewish Coalition event at Sheldon Adelson's Sands Casino in Las Vegas. Sheldon Adelson and various other Israel First billionaires run this group. And this really put on display who the forces are who want to destroy Tucker and recapture the Republican Party for Israel First. Here's a clip.
This is
and I just
Mark
want
Levin.
The anti-American, anti-Israel, anti-West crowd to understand something. You're going to have to come through me and millions of people just like me, and you're not going to make it. You think your stupid little podcast, or your stupid little subscription program, or your little TV show, or maybe you have a little radio show, is going to change the world like hell it is. Not if I and everybody else have something to say about it. And I just want.
Wow. Well, okay. So shots fired. By the way, like Mark Levin has a radio show, so I don't even know what he's trying to disparage there. He's also a radio broadcaster. He also yells into a microphone, paranoid rants about Muslims and lefties. And so, yeah. So what's the takeaway here? Tucker Tucker effed up. He brought on Nick Fuentes, who I honestly I've never paid attention to. So I don't, like before you explain all that, I didn't even know what all the fuss was about. So basically, Nick Fuentes sounds like he is an actual anti-Semite. That's fair to say, right?
I would say he's not very favorable towards Jews. Whenever he wants to respond to anything I say or attack me, he'll just be like, "You're a Jew."
Okay, got it. So Tucker, for some reason, thought it was a good idea to bring him on.
Well, I don't know what's going. Something else is going on here.
Yeah,
because he suddenly starts doing every major podcast in the course of like 2 or 3 weeks. Everybody's just having him on. I feel like if you're going to be the next Charlie Kirk after Charlie Kirk's death, and his tone shifted slightly after Charlie Kirk's death, by the way, there's going to be, I'm not saying he's a Fed. I'm not saying the CIA is behind this or something, but in American culture, if you're going to really rise, first, you're going to have a popular base. He has that. You're going to be charismatic. He's very charismatic. I mean, if you'd watched him in the past, it's like highly entertaining. It's not just like, Father Coughlin Nazi rants. Like he's saying funny stuff. And there's going to be capital there. There's capital behind all of these major podcasts that he was on. Lots of capital. And so I feel like there are forces that are propelling Fuentes into the mainstream for whatever reason. It may be that they want to force this debate on the right, but something is going on that's bigger than these personalities on the right. And I mean, it ultimately comes down to rage about Netanyahu and the role he's playing. But for Tucker to have him on, well, you're not just going to be talking about Israel anymore. Your outrage about Israel, Israeli settlers burning down Christian villages in the West Bank. You're going to be dealing with someone who wants to talk about Jews and the role of Jews in America, the malign role in his view of Jews. And so now that's the debate. And that's the debate that the Republican Jewish Coalition and Zionists want to have. Republican Jews are almost all ultra-Zionists. In addition to being social reactionaries, they're all ultra-Zionists. And they see no distinction between Israel and Jews, right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, Groypers also see no distinction between Israel and Jews. They see Israel and all of its crimes as a reflection of not just Jewish supremacy, but sort of the essential deformity of the Jewish religion and culture. And that's the debate that the Zionists want to have.
So you think possibly there's an interest among ultra-Zionists in promoting Nick Fuentes and making him the face of...
I have no idea. I don't think they're promoting him. I don't know if they're promoting him. I'm not saying there's some secret Zionist force behind there. It may have been someone who agrees with him.
Right.
But there are larger forces at play here. And the Zionists think they can win this debate now against Tucker, or they can isolate Tucker now. Did you see those signs that they had like mass printed at the RJC? Tucker is not MAGA.
No, I missed that.
And they have no grassroots base themselves. It's just, in a way, they're being the stereotype Nick Fuentes says they are. It's just capital. It's just Likudnik Jewish money that they're putting up against Tucker, but they're using this moment. It's not like the Civil War that played out in the 80s and early 90s, where it was a war between intellectuals and the right. This is a war between podcasters and billionaires. And the podcast world is so wrapped up within the billionaire world. I mean, Peter Thiel funds so many of these podcasts. It's like Tim Dillon said, like, as soon as I started getting popular, I got approached by Peter Thiel and I got offered a meeting with JD Vance. So, they got Kevin Roberts by the balls. I mean, they made him whimper because they could threaten him with money. He runs the Heritage Foundation. Who's paying for Project Esther? Likudnik billionaires.
Yeah, well, that's why Kevin Roberts, going back to his statement, he talks about like we don't cow to donors. Like, of course you do, and he says like no matter what the globalists want, like who are the globalists in this equation? I understand like who he's referring to, because he's right now in power. The Trump administration uses his policies. So who are the supposed globalists that he thinks he's standing against?
Wait, sorry, who referred to globalists?
Like Kevin Roberts. He talks about like the globalists.
The globalists, it's like it's a word you use when you can't criticize capitalists. But there are a wing of like globalist billionaires. Like Bill Gates would be a globalist.
Okay.
Who he doesn't care about. He doesn't align himself with the West necessarily. He aligns himself with any leadership in which which can help him assist his agenda. So he'll form friendly relations with China's Xi at the same time that he forges friendly relationships with the Democratic Party in the U.S. But I mean, that's just that's a coterie of billionaires. I mean, globalism is different than in many ways transatlanticism, because that's centered exclusively in the West against, counter hegemonic powers. And then you have George Soros. I mean, is he a globalist? Ultimately, he's just a capitalist, like the billionaires sponsoring the Heritage Foundation. But anyway, we're getting off track here. I mean, the threats that Mark Levin was making there are not about having a war of ideas. It's about shutting down debate using the preponderance of financial power on his side. And that's how he intends to shut down Tucker Carlson. It's what is happening right before our eyes with the purchase of TikTok by Andreessen Horowitz. David Horowitz is a mentor to many of those who took over the Republican Party on behalf of the neocons. His son is Ben Horowitz and Andreessen Horowitz. They own TikTok. Paramount, Larry Ellison, David Ellison. I mean, they're doing what they can to take those with their little podcasts and their little radio shows and isolate them by just buying everything up, which fuels anti-Jewish attitudes on the right. What it's about is the WASPs. I mean, this was always about this. The WASPs from the old kind of, Burkean conservative traditions, the Buchananites, the Sam Francises, the Joe Sobrans, versus the Ellis Islanders, like Midge Decter and Norman Podhoretz and Irving Kristol, who came in and basically forged an alliance with the Christian right to pump tons and tons of money through right-wing foundations into the right and make it more neoconservative. And the Christian right is basically taking the neocon side here, the corporate Christian right that's Christian Zionist.
You mentioned the Ellisons. Yeah. One thing a clip I want to play was Trump recently gave an interview with 60 Minutes, which is now under the editorial direction of Barry Weiss, who was installed by the Ellisons because she's a pro-Israel activist. And Trump openly praised Barry Weiss in her new role. So funny.
And actually 60 Minutes paid me a lot of money, and you don't have to put this on because I don't want to embarrass you, and I'm sure you're not. I think you have a great new leader, frankly, because the young woman that's leading your whole enterprise is a great, from what I know, I don't know her, but I hear she's a great person. But 60 Minutes was forced to pay me a lot of money.
So he's so happy that Barry Weiss is now in control at 60 Minutes. And it recently came out that Barry Weiss, after she came in on the job, she was texting directly with Benjamin Netanyahu, Jared Kushner, and Hillary Clinton. So that is the establishment right there.
It shows the role that CBS plays in a partisan sense, but obviously it also plays a role in a much more consequential way that will go beyond Trump, which is as a vehicle for Israel's politics in the U.S. So, expect a 60 Minutes hit piece on Tucker Carlson and then one on Nick Fuentes. I mean, that's where this is going to go. And they're just going to use their institutional and financial power to crush this. But at the same time, in doing so, they're inspiring more and propelling more anti-Semitism. This is the problem. Republican Jews are only 30% at most of Jews overall in the United States. We're not like some huge outliers here in what we believe. Like a lot of Jews are silent about this, but we come from, a more well-rooted left-wing Jewish tradition in the U.S. that finds Republican neocon Likudnik Jews to be disgusting, that opposes them. And so they represent and then what is the population, what percentage of population that Jews represent in the U.S.? 3%, 4%. So they are 30% of 3%. They're a minority within a minority, and they're going out in public fashion and declaring control over an entire party that's mostly Protestant, that has this entire wing of WASPs who don't like being bossed around, who are like blue bloods. And they are confusing consent with control. They never received consent for what they were doing. They just attained control by pulling the strings of a corrupt capitalist system and a corrupt party that represents the most extreme iteration of politics in a neoliberal capitalist society.
Well,
and
on that
now
note,
their control is being tested, and they realize they don't have the consent, and so they are making this out to be a fight over the Jewish future, and they're using all Jews in America as a human shield for their own agenda and the hatred that they have inspired within their own party. That's the danger.
but yet Israeli officials still brag about how much control they have over the Trump administration. This is from the Republican Jewish Coalition gathering. This is Ron Dermer, top aide to Netanyahu, basically saying that Trump does whatever Sheldon Adelson and his wife Miriam tells Trump to do. Sheldon Adelson has since passed, but when he was alive, and as you can see from this clip, even after he's gone, Trump still is doing whatever he is told.
Remind me of somebody who we should recognize, who is a mentor of Matt's, and somebody who's one of the greatest Jews that I've met in my lifetime, who's not with us anymore, and his wife is not with us here today, and that's Sheldon Adelson. He was a man of tremendous courage. And he told me when I was ambassador many times, he said, what is the use of all these people, very prominent and influential Jewish Americans, what is the use of them having all this access if they're not going to be there when it counts? If you're not going to actually go to your elected official and say, this is what has to be done, and you need to take a stand. And Sheldon, when I was ambassador, would do that time after time after time. You just heard from President Trump, and as my prime minister has said time and again, we've never had a friend like President Trump. Never. But I remember with Rhoda going out to dinner with Sheldon and Miri every time they would come to Washington. And, you'd think Sheldon had such a tremendous role in helping convince President Trump to go and recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital was a very important issue for Sheldon. But he didn't stop there. The next time he met the president, he went and talked to him about something else, and then something else, and then something else. It was never about access for Sheldon Adelson. It was about doing the right thing, and he supported people who he believed in, and he said, the reason why I believe in you is because you say that you stand for something, and now when you get into office, stand for something, actually do it. And so he's a profile in courage. We miss him deep.
Yes. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's a brazen admission that a foreign state and their mega donors get the U.S. government to do what they want, and they're bragging about it. I mean, again, and recall that the first Trump administration was shaped by this conspiracy theory, this concoction that he was controlled by Russia. Now out in the open, another government, Israel, it brags about how the fact that their donors get Trump to do what they want and whatever, that's considered normal.
That was such a disgusting scene. That's Ron Dermer, whose father was the mayor of Miami Beach, USA. He speaks English with an American accent. He's from here. He's from the American Jewish world. And he's the top advisor to a foreign leader, Benjamin Netanyahu. And he's the guy who shattered every ceasefire until Trump and Steve Witkoff finally isolated him. He made sure that no negotiation with Hamas would go through and kept the genocide going for 2 years. He was the main figure behind Netanyahu. And he's from here. And now he's praising a U.S. billionaire, a dead U.S. billionaire, whose wife is Israeli, for the role that he played in convincing Donald Trump. Convincing meaning basically bribing. I mean, everything with Trump is legal bribery. That's why the Binance CEO is getting off, just straight up bribery. Trump said, "Oh, I don't remember that." It's like old Reagan clips, except he can't claim to have Alzheimer's about Iran-Contra. Just straight up bribery. And when, Aaron, do you ever see clips of, the Democratic Progressive Jewish Coalition going viral, or Jewish Voice for Peace? I don't know about Democratic Progressive, but Jewish Voice for Peace clips going viral. You see this going viral. These are the Jews that people see because they're the ones in charge right now.
Yeah.
And they are the most odious class element on the planet. I mean, they take the cake like they're worse than the Gusanos. In many ways, they're similar to the Gusanos, but they look a lot worse. And they all, because they tend to be more religious or overtly religious, they have to all wear kippahs. I mean, they're putting all the Jewish symbols out there. It's just like a giant anti-Semitism machine that they're cranking up. And they want it. They wanted to raise money for the ADL and their Mamdani tracker. You had Israeli officials the head of the Ministry of Diaspora Affairs, what's his name, called for Jews in America to relocate to Israel after Mamdani's win. They love anti-Semitism. They love it manufacturing it and then benefiting from it. So it's no surprise this is happening on the right, and that a figure like Nick Fuentes, who admittedly is charismatic, but it's no surprise he's actually getting so popular right now. What I do have questions about is, how this managed to get so deep into the conservative mainstream. And I am sure the Democrats are very happy about this development as well, which is bad for those of us or those of you who are on the left who would like to see the Democrats someday like apply sanctions on Israel. This is only going to benefit the faction of the Democratic Party, the Rahm Emanuel faction, who want to take any debate over the role of the Israel lobby and AIPAC out of the debates within that party. But that's down the line. That's like 2028. I could talk about this for like another hour. We have the maker of a propaganda film by Beitar USA in the digital green room. And I think there are a few other things we should cover. Aaron, can we get your reaction to Dick Cheney's death?
Well, listen, I thought you had the best take, which is that, yes, Dick Cheney's gone, but his legacy remains, and it's entrenched in both parties. Not only was Dick Cheney welcomed as a resistance hero, as the New York Times portrayed him in their obituary, but, Kamala Harris openly touted his endorsement, said Dick Cheney was highly respected, and thought that was a good strategy to defeat Trump. Whereas Trump pretended to be against the Cheney legacy, even while he continues it as well, with his staunch support for Israel, his regime change campaign that's now escalating in Venezuela. So yes, Dick Cheney, the man, has passed, but as a political project, he's very much alive.
Yeah, I mean, here's Biden. Guided by a strong set of conservative values, Dick Cheney devoted his life to public service, blah, blah, blah. He believed as I do. All right, he believed as I do. You're never going to, if you're saying Dick Cheney believed as I do, you should be kept as far away from power as possible. That family's the beginning, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't written by Joe Biden. Joe Biden's staring at a blank wall, drooling right now. But this is something Biden would have approved of. He's repeatedly said in public that he liked Dick Cheney. He helped whip the vote for Dick Cheney's illegal Iraq war. Dick Cheney was really the seminal figure in ushering in the war on terror, which changed our society indelibly for the worse. Consolidated control of the security state over every aspect of American politics. He helped design the torture program and conceal it. He revealed the identity of an undercover CIA operative, Valerie Plame, because her husband, former ambassador to Iraq, Joe Wilson, exposed the WMD yellow cake lie in the New York Times, which should have been a crime that he spent a long time in prison for, according to U.S. law. Don't see the FBI investigating him. And now the war on terror has been spun into, and Dick Cheney did all this partly because he had Halliburton stock after resigning as CEO, and he made Halliburton billions of dollars in Iraq, increasing his own stocks. He made enormous amounts of money off a war that maimed thousands of American soldiers, killed hundreds of thousands of Iraqis, millions across the Middle East, according to the Brown University Institute for the cost of war initiative at Brown University. I think 4.1 million dead resulting from Iraq and U.S. wars in the Middle East. That was Dick Cheney's legacy. And now Donald Trump is fulfilling Dick Cheney's wildest fantasies in a pursuit for lucrative plunder in Venezuela, invoking the war on terror and Ronald Reagan's phony war on drugs. The bombing of Iran, that was a Dick Cheney fantasy that Donald Trump fulfilled. The difference is Dick Cheney ran as Dick Cheney. He ran as a war president, as a warmonger. Donald Trump didn't. He ran as a peace president and still vying for the Nobel Peace Prize. And then, as Aaron, you pointed out, the Democrats rehabilitated Dick Cheney's legacy just because Liz Cheney was outspoken against January 6th and came to their side and became the Republican chair of the completely Democratic J6 committee. And now they're praising Dick Cheney as some honorable man. Kamala Harris praised him on the campaign trail. It's just, and they never asked Liz Cheney to disown any of her beliefs, which were the same as her father's. So Dick Cheney really, his spirit lives on through the leadership of both political parties in the U.S. regime.
You know, from a partisan point of view, if you really think of it, Dick Cheney represents, even though he's a Republican, him and his family, him and his daughter Liz, they represent everything that have caused the Democrats to fail so much. Trump took advantage of the Cheney's neocon legacy to pretend that he's against regime change wars. And also, meanwhile, the Democrats, rather than embracing, you know, economic populism, they got into fixations like the January 6th committee. And before that, Russiagate and Jack Smith and the classified documents case and the hush money payments for Stormy Daniels. All these issues that are completely disconnected from people's lives and do nothing to stop economic decline and perpetuate the war state. Because also, what did January 6th do? What did Russiagate do? Like, it propped up the intelligence community, and you know, the FBI were like the heroes, and institutions were heroes. All these issues that were totally divorced from people's lives. So it's crazy. The Cheneys, despite being Republicans, really, it was Democrats chose to prop them up, and in doing so, really hurt themselves for a long time to come.
This is partly why Kamala Harris lost. I mean, it's like she's already so odious on so many levels. And then she brings out Liz Cheney as her main campaign surrogate. Like, she was touring. Her final campaign message, remember, she stopped on the tarmac and in order to condemn Trump for calling for, for like attacking Liz Cheney, to defend Cheney. That's what she's doing in the middle of, you know, a cost of living crisis in America. They're never going to get over it.
It feels like punching down at this point to go after Kamala Harris. It was just such a...
Well, it would, but she keeps talking about running again.
There's no way. This is absolutely no way. There's no way.
Meanwhile, yeah, as I mentioned, Donald Trump is looking for opportunities in Venezuela. This is Dick Cheney politics. This is something that will come out in an investigation I'm working on with Wyatt Reed about Jordan Goudreau's coup plot in 2019. You can watch my interview with Jordan Goudreau, who is now missing. He's disappeared following an order for his arrest. I don't know if there's a manhunt. I don't know what's going on with him.
An order for his arrest here in the U.S.?
In the U.S., FBI has issued an order for his arrest because he failed to post bail on one of his court cases. And he is now, as far as I know, missing. But I interviewed him. This is the author of the Operation Gideon, so-called Bay of Piglets mercenary invasion of Venezuela, which failed in early 2020. And he just detailed for me the high-level Trump connections that he claims were involved in his coup plot, as well as the Venezuelan opposition connections and the CIA connections. And we're going to reveal all that in detail in writing, you know, just in print, so everyone can see the documentation and judge for themselves. But one of the key takeaways is there was this group, Global Governments, which initially recruited Jordan Goudreau, of Trump associates, Keith Schiller, who's now a lobbyist for Pakistan. He's been hunting for rare earth minerals in Greenland. He's Trump's longtime body man and security man. They formed this group simply to look for contracts in a post-Maduro Venezuela, to make money off regime change, to monetize regime change. It's just right out there in the open. And what we're seeing now is a quest to monetize regime change using the U.S. military and not some small fry former U.S. Green Beret and a bunch of ragtag Venezuelan deserters in the jungles of Colombia. It's the USS Gerald Ford. It's the U.S. Navy. It's the U.S. Special Forces operatives are being positioned to capture Maduro and to take over Venezuelan airfields. There's discussion in the New York Times and Miami Herald of looming attacks once the Gerald Ford arrives on Venezuelan military bases. This is all about the Benjamins. As Trump pressures Venezuela, investors see major opportunities. This is semaphore. There was a meeting, IMF World Bank meetings. Barclays was involved to talk about investment opportunities with Maria Corina Machado, who is the Pinochet and drag figure, Venezuelan opposition leader backed by the U.S. government, who will deliver all this. And, so this goes even beyond Trump. UBS was there. Amazon, Starbucks. It's all about the money. It's all about just straight up imperial theft. And here's Maria Corina Machado promising it again. I mean, she just keeps saying, I'm going to let you steal whatever you want from Venezuela once you take out Maduro and slaughter all the Chavistas and start another migrant wave to the north.
We will open Venezuela for foreign investment. I am talking about a $1.7 trillion opportunity, not only in oil and gas, which is huge, and you know that the opportunities, because we will open all upstream, middle stream, downstream to all companies, but also in mining, in gold, in infrastructure, power. We have our grid right now has a 17 gigawatt opportunity of energy potential that needs to be rehabbed. Certainly for technology and AI and tourism. You know, Venezuela has 2,800 kilometers of pristine Caribbean coastline ready to be developed. So this is going to be huge. We will bring rule of law. We will open markets. We will have security for foreign investment and a transparent, massive privatization program that is waiting for you.
I mean, she's acting as almost like a plunder minister, tourism plunder minister with a bright smile on her face, promising to let foreign investors take over Venezuela's coastline, to just hand over her country in exchange for her coming to power on the back of a U.S. Abrams tank. It doesn't get more obvious.
And she's the recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize. Incredible that the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize can be openly basically calling for the plunder of her country and regime change. Literally, like, she's called for military force to achieve it. And this sets her apart from other members of the Venezuelan opposition who at least have the dignity to not call to beg the U.S. to come and destroy their country. Whereas, but she doesn't have any hesitation to do it. It's really extraordinary. And there's a long history of plunder that already precedes this, that's already set the stage for this, where the U.S. stole Venezuela's oil company, or at least the U.S. subsidiary of it, Citgo. Anya talks about it in her great book, The Corporate Coup. You recently, Max, gave a speech about it, which you put up on the Grayzone, which I encourage people to watch. So it's like we've already, and of course, the theft of Venezuela's gold in a UK bank. So there's already been plunder in this regime change operation. And if it goes further, if they actually achieve the overthrow of Maduro, they'll take it to an unprecedented level.
Without a doubt. And it will destabilize Venezuela and the region. It will be a disaster for the region. And they've already destabilized Venezuela again and again with their various plots, but they've all failed. The pretext for this, what is the pretext? That Maduro heads a narco-terror cartel called Cartel of the Suns, which was actually created by the CIA in the early 90s, as documented by CBS News' 60 Minutes back when Mike Wallace was alive, when they reported on the CIA and not on behalf of the CIA. Go watch that. It's all there. The whole thing, it's the most shameless fraud that's about to be folded into a new kind of manifest destiny or turn of the century era banana war, oil war. And the Nobel Prize. How can anyone take that seriously ever again?
What's the other pretext?
Why do we let the Norwegians decide? Like, it's just a bunch of Norwegian people.
The other pretext that they use against Maduro is that they accuse him of rigging the last election. But I'm sorry, first of all, even if that were true, and I wasn't there for the election, so I have no way to judge. We have no right to impose regime change on countries just because we don't like how they run their elections. And second of all, and moreover, after more than 2 decades of trying to destroy Venezuela's democracy and reverse multiple elections, the first coup against Chavez, the first coup attempt against Maduro, you don't have a right to weigh in on another country's democracy when you've been trying to destroy it for more than 2 decades, not just through coup attempts, at least 2 of them, but also through economic sanctions that destroy a country. Nobody in Venezuela voted for Joe Biden or Donald Trump to decide whether or not they can have an economy, but that Donald Trump and Joe Biden decided that they are effectively the rulers of Venezuela and they can destroy its economy because they want to overthrow their government. So in that situation, when you've been trying to rig another country's democracy and destroy it for more than 20 years, because this goes back to the Bush administration, and then Obama declares Venezuela to be a so-called national security threat and gets the ball rolling on regime change too. You just don't have the right to weigh in on what other countries do in their elections.
Well, I guess we deserve to be placed under naval siege and sanctioned after the 2000 election that George W. Bush clearly stole.
Exactly.
I mean, it's ridiculous. Nothing could be more undemocratic than what's being done to Venezuela.
Yeah. And again, and that's not a fair comparison because everyone recognized that Venezuela's multiple elections under Chavez and then under Maduro, at least the early ones, were totally fair. The Carter Center monitored Venezuelan elections where so it's like you can't even, so it's like, but of course, what would we have done if a country had sanctioned us for the 2000 election when there was some fraud going on, when Bush probably did steal that election? Of course, we never allowed that. But yet we give ourselves the right to destroy other countries because we don't like the way they vote. And we do this over and over and over. Same thing in so many Latin American countries going back many years.
Yeah.
And Caribbean too, Haiti. And by the way, that's another reason why our elites hate the Venezuelan government is because they've not only tried to use their resources to help their own people, but other people in the region too, through Petrocaribe, subsidize oil for countries like Haiti, subsidize oil for low-income families here in the U.S. That's been Venezuela's main intervention in the U.S. is trying to help low-income people, and that's what our elites just can't absolutely stand.
No, they're going to cut programs, all like the major program that subsidizes heating in poor people's homes next week due to the shutdown. I mean, it's pathetic. So we've gone way over time, or we're not on schedule. We're not running on time because I'd wanted to bring in the maker of Beitar USA, a propaganda film by Beitar USA, a little bit earlier, but we, I guess, had so much to talk about that here we are. And this will be the first time that we'll be seeing his face and hearing about the story about how this incredible behind the scenes film was made. Let me just play the trailer for this film for those of you who haven't seen it yet and don't understand how explosive it is. This is the trailer to a propaganda film by Beitar USA.
A lot of things said in the press that are true.
Whoops.
There are a lot of things said in the press that aren't true.
There's a group called Betar. Can you confirm whether that organization is providing lists to the Trump administration?
The Trump administration, the work that we're doing, whether it exists or not, I won't confirm.
We can't discuss on camera too much about the specifics of a lot of different things, but of course, Beitar submits information to the government.
You are a terrorist! 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 Terrorist!
Beitar made a joke about handing a beeper to a terrorist.
I see a beeper. There's a tremendous sense of Jewish pride now holding a beeper.
Free pages! Free pages!
Who are you to judge us?
Something is going to happen very, very soon.
You who put nails in the coffins of our kids, you who raped us in Kibbutz Be'eri, you who beat us in the streets of New York have nothing to say to us. Because we are the good.
Okay, well, that was the trailer for a propaganda film by Beitar USA. You can see the film on our YouTube channel. I posted it in its entirety on Twitter X, where if you try to watch it and you're not logged in, you try to watch it from a laptop while logged out, it is age-restricted content, even though there is nothing in that film that would be rated R. At best, at worst, it would be rated PG-13. And meanwhile, on Twitter X, you can see all kinds of violent and pornographic content, as well as Pete Hegseth's snuff films of the U.S. massacring men on fishing boats in the Caribbean. So with that, we'll bring in the maker of this film. I'll let him introduce himself. Welcome to the Grayzone, Beitar USA member.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for having me. Great show so far.
Yeah. So please introduce yourself to the Grayzone.
My name's Adam. Longtime watcher, consumer of the Grayzone. Big fan. Yeah.
Adam, do you have a last name that you want to share?
Maybe not.
Okay. So you approached me. I didn't know you, didn't know about anything about you, but you approached me about kind of a project that you were doing related to Beitar USA. I mean, describe the genesis of this film, which I guess it didn't begin with making a film. Beitar has accused you of infiltrating them. How did you get involved there with the most militant Zionist street group, which is essentially a front group for the Kahanist movement of Israel?
Yeah. I sent them an email and asked to join. And I joined as a video editor initially. And, you know, they didn't respond to my email about being a video editor. But once I kind of said that I had infiltrated the pro-Palestinian movement in Texas, they responded immediately, gave me a phone number, gave me Yoni Quetzel's phone number, who I had a conversation with.
That's the guy you see in the trailer who's saying having a pager is Jewish pride.
Yoni is the social media manager of Beitar, and the stand-up comedian,
Yeah.
in his own right, and it's just a generally just a good hang. And we talked on the phone, and the only accreditation process to joining was being Jewish, and having been the vetting process was like, how many times have you been to Israel? And I was like, so many. And yeah, and then I joined and started making some videos for their Twitter page. They would send me counter protest footage that they had
So
shot.
you basically signed up as their video editor and they brought you in simply on the basis of you being Jewish.
And having been to Israel. Yeah.
And having been to Israel.
Yeah, I don't know if that would have been, I didn't, yeah, but those two things were the, yeah. And, yeah, and I made a few videos for them, and they put some of them out, and they were kind of just like, just bad, poorly edited, just sort of, just ridiculous videos. I was kind of trying to see if they had any, idea of what they wanted or what was good. I kind of tested the waters of the kinds of things that they would want, and anything goes, really. They kind of put up anything on their Twitter, all trolling, just trolling material, these kinds of things. And then, at a certain point that got boring. And at the time that Mahmoud Khalil got detained, I proposed to both Ron and Yoni to make a PR film about the organization. Ron Tarosian, the head of Beitar USA, the founder of this iteration, is very concerned with PR. He's a PR guru himself. We can talk about that maybe a little. But I presented an idea to make a PR film about Beitar to kind of counter what was being said in the media. They were starting to get some press. They were starting to get press because they were taking credit for Mahmoud Khalil's detainment, among other pro-Palestinian.
They basically took credit by saying that they had this kind of AI technology that allowed them to to match the faces of pro-Palestine student activists and show that they were here on green cards and that they supplied the names of those on green cards to the Trump administration. And the Trump administration went after Mahmoud Khalil first. So should we watch a scene from the film related to that?
If you want, yeah, I mean, sure. So I just wanted to say, I think you took out the music from the trailer. That music is actually licensed. I have permission to. You have permission to use that music.
Okay.
I'm just saying. It's cool.
Yeah, I'm worried. Yeah, a lot of the music is licensed in the film, so this may get us demonetized, but we'll see what happens.
On the streets of Atlanta, on the streets of New Orleans, on the streets of Dallas, on the streets of San Diego, on the streets of Boston, and on the streets of...
This is Ron Tarosian, who's the main subject of this film, who's the head of Beitar USA, and helped bring Meir Kahane and his movement back to the United States and infiltrate other organizations on behalf of the Kahanist ideology. And he's a major PR executive in New York.
Of New Orleans, you have no place in this country. If you come from a Middle Eastern nation where you do not have freedoms, and you come to this country and you speak about intifada and you speak about killing Jews, some of us won't be quiet. Some of us will stand up. And some of us will damn right say to the American government, they have no place here.
I think Khalil wrote a letter in jail blaming Beitar. I can't get into details exactly what that role is, but I think for sure there was a real role played by Beitar in deportations.
On just that one, or kind of all of
them? At least many of them.
That's Yoni Kletzel.
The spirit that we bring to New York that they don't understand. These people, they can't fathom it. There's a lot of layers behind this that...
So tell us what's happening here. This is a infamous scene.
Yeah, so that's Rameza Ozturk, who was getting her doctorate in... She had gotten her master's in developmental and child psychology, and she was actually she's a Fulbright scholar. So she's this kind of like impressive woman who was at Tufts, and she had written what we're seeing on screen is her getting detained by ICE. But the reason for that is that she wrote a op-ed in March of 2024.
She co-authored it.
What? Yeah, she co-authored it with three other people. That basically it was just urging the president of the university to acknowledge resolutions that had already been passed by the Tufts Community Union Senate. And this was almost a half a year into Israel's genocide. So well into the genocide, she co-authored this piece in Tufts Daily, and that was enough for her to get marked. Beitar took credit for this. Who knows if they were actually the ones to flag flagger. I can't say, but yeah, this is this very scary interaction, and I put it throughout the film, and I didn't put it there to exploit her or her situation. It's just a very alarming scene that I think represents a lot of it just shows what happened to people, and this one just happened to be caught on a CCTV or whatever was filming it. It just happened to get caught on it, but there was many other instances like this that we just haven't seen because it just didn't get caught on camera. And then Rameza got taken to a bunch of different facilities and ended up in a notoriously bad ICE facility that has poor conditions, terrible conditions. And she was there for a month and a half, and she wrote about her experience in Vanity Fair in this article, Even God Cannot Hear Us. I recommend people read that to hear about her experience in the ICE facility.
Yeah, this is a scene of secret police, of the brain police, thought police in the U.S. streets. That's why I think this scene is so significant. And this is what the film opens with, but this is where Beitar explains their role in, they believe, influencing these kinds of arrests.
I'm hesitant to speak of for reasons you can imagine. It's but it's good we tell the story because people should understand more about us, and like this, we're going to educate them about it.
I want to be your Jewish uncle. I want to be your Jewish aunt. I want to be your Jewish brother. I want to be your Jewish sister.
But you guys really don't need to be doing all of that. Habibi, kif badi attasil fik?
This is Mahmoud Khalil.
Okay. Hi, Amy. Yeah, they just handcuffed him and took him. I don't know what to do.
One of my biggest dreams for Beitar this year, I'll say in June 2025, is I hope by June 2026 we have a lot of Beitar marriages. I want more Beitar babies.
Excuse me. They're not talking to me. I don't know. I look to know. Excuse me.
This is his pregnant wife, Mahmoud Khalil's pregnant wife, panicking over him being led away in handcuffs.
The lawyer would like to speak to somebody. Oh my God, they're literally running away from me.
Every decision that a Beitari makes needs to be based on one very simple concept. Is it good for the Jews? Is it good for the Jews? Of course, one of our roles as we grow is to advocate for Jews to have weapons. Our people wear masks in the street because they are fighting in the streets to protect the Jewish people, and their neighbors want to kill them. So our job is to teach Jews it's okay to stand up. And as you wear a mask in Gaza when you're fighting in Little Gaza in parts of Paris. Jabotinsky wrote, "Only kind of children I have ever loved are mischief makers." Beitar are those mischief makers.
Free pages! Free pages! Yo, I got the Swell's paper! Give it to the Swell, he forgot it!
It's Masjid Nur al-Islam. How many 9-year-olds do they have in here? Stop fucking the children. Why did Muhammad suck so much dick? Fuck Muhammad. Stop raping 9-year-olds. This is where the children come in. We're coming here right afterwards.
Pretty disturbing. That was a Beitar member basically the Beitar member outside a mosque in New York City harassing Muslims. You saw them handing out free pagers. I think they handed out a free pager to a pager to harass Norman Finkelstein. They handed out a pager to UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. And did they hand one to Zohran Mamdani as well? Sorry, I can't hear you. Please, can you try talking?
Maybe this.
Yeah, no, I can hear you now.
You can hear me now?
Yeah. So, and you were on that Zoom call that you recorded there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there was. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there was a Zoom call where it was like an hour long, and there's only like, I think like maybe like 12 people in there or something, but I don't know, they just like kept saying stuff that was worthy of going in the film. And that's actually where I learned that Ron had met Yoni randomly in Grand Central while Yoni was just handing out beepers in Grand Central. And Ron kind of, it's in the film, but Ron kind of gives this he's very proud of Yoni and what he's doing, and continuing this legacy, I guess, that Ron views as valuable. And I think Ron kind of sees himself in Yoni, because Yoni is a settler. Yoni goes to the West Bank and lives in illegal Jewish outposts. That's in the film as well. He's in one of the scenes in the Zoom call. Yoni is at a outpost, just sort of like spotted.
Really?
Yeah, he's spotted up, and he's talking about how he's there. And Ron's, and I say that there's a legacy there because Ron has a history of helping build illegal Jewish settlements. Ron, assisted Ateret Kohanim in the 90s, and he helped build the settlement of Har Homa.
Really?
Yeah, he bought bulldozers for that project to speed up the construction.
So Ateret Kohanim is the group that displaces Palestinians in East Jerusalem and will move in Jewish settlers almost overnight. And Ron Tarosian, I mean, he's a very significant figure in New York politics. He claimed credit to you for raising lots of money for Richie Torres, the Democrat in the Bronx, who's one of the Israel lobby's biggest tools. And he claimed credit to you for raising lots of money for Eric Adams, the outgoing New York mayor.
Claims to be their biggest donors. He hosted Eric Adams's victory party when in 2021 when he became mayor in New York City. And he's proud of it. He's very, it's funny. Like, I think sometimes people are like, you have to like figure these things out, and you're like, oh God, I got you. Ron is very proud of his influence, his political influence, and his influence in general, to his proximity to power. He's proud of that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the strengths of this film is it just let Ron speak for himself and Yoni Kletzel speak for themselves, and you show what they truly are. And 99% of our audience will reel in horror at what they genuinely, authentically are. So there's no need to apply an editorial lens or turn this into a hit piece or for you to narrate. You're just showing people what they believe and what they do. And in some ways, I think Beitar would be wise to kind of embrace it, because I don't think you twisted their beliefs in any way.
They haven't. I think they have embraced it. They've commented on the Twitter video, great Beitar promo, fund us now, and then they posted their GoFundMe. They are shameless. I think I don't know how they feel about the film, but they're definitely using the attention it is gathering to their advantage. And again, that comes back to Ron and his PR background. Yeah.
I at the same time, I don't think this film is flattering. It's a very flattering profile of them. And it highlights the reality, the political reality of Beitar's connection to a violent extremist group, a group that was defined by the FBI as a violent extremist group that is very still powerful in New York politics. The Jewish Defense League, founded by Meir Kahane, which has carried out acts of terrorism inside the United States. The killing of Alex Odeh, for example, the Western Regional Director of the Arab Anti-Discrimination League. They bombed his office. They've carried out fire bombings of diplomats. And Dov Hikind was involved in some of those attacks, and he is now an assembly member in New York who has been
former assembly member.
He's in your film. You can see him in there, and
he's not in the. He's actually not in the film. I just put him in the trailer.
Okay.
I just I didn't need to. I'm just saying because he was at the rally outside the Iranian mission to the UN, and he gave this fiery speech to a crowd before Ron. He opened for Ron at this protest. I sent Aaron the speech he gave. I don't know if we have time to play it, but it's an interesting, it's a very foreboding, apocalyptic speech that he gave.
President of the United States, God bless him, mentioned that within 2 weeks, America's going to decide what they're going to do. So I want to give you the news. It ain't going to happen in 2 weeks. The president does not need 2 weeks. He knows exactly what the situation is. He knows who he's dealing with, the Ayatollah Khomeini. And I guarantee you, stay tuned, watch your phones, listen to your radios. I guarantee you, something is going to happen very, very soon.
Yeah, and this is like a few days before the U.S. bombs Iran.
So he had a direct line to the White House.
I don't know. But Dov Hikind is an interesting figure. Yeah, he was a leader in the JDL and an assemblyman for 40 years. And he's a registered Democrat who would like secure Borough Park, the Orthodox Borough Park voting bloc for Republicans, people like Rudy Giuliani. And in exchange for them just unconditionally supporting Israel. Yeah, I would recommend David Sheen. David Sheen's work on Kahanists and democratic politics in the U.S. for kind of like a very he's a great journalist scholar on the Kahanist movement in the U.S.
Well, here's a segment from your film about the Kahanist roots of Beitar USA. So
Jabotinsky spoke about the tree in terms of what his movement needs to look like. Beitar was always the ideological branch of the tree. The Likud party today is essentially the modern day Jabotinsky movement. Beitar has traditionally been the youth movement of the Likud.
The Arab is a cancer in our midst. And you don't coexist with a cancer. A cancer you either cut out and throw out, or you die.
Back in the 60s, this 53-year-old rabbi founded the JDL in the United States, a group that used tactics of violence and confrontation in defense of Jews. 13 years ago, he moved to Israel, where he now crusades to throw all Arabs out of that country.
Violence is a terrible thing, but sometimes it's terribly necessary.
Because I respect the Arab, I want to throw him out.
You fucking do a 10-minute video of Kahana. They've never heard him speak. Kahana was the most amazing speaker. And he was so smart, and he was so right. At the end of the day, we can't live with them. And it's painful to say it, but you can't live with them. Finished, it's over, it's done. You can't live with them.
The murder of Rabbi Meir Kahana was a dark night in the history of the Jewish people. But just as the sun sets, so does it rise. Binyamin Ze'ev Kahana, the devoted son of Rabbi Meir Kahana, has stepped forward to continue the work of his father through Kahana Chai.
He is the campus coordinator of Kahana Chai, Mr. Ben Israel.
This is Ron Tarosian. Like a young man.
Friends, we are gathered here today for the 4th year
that we have not had the greatest Jewish leader ever, Rabbi Meir Kahane. Kahane Chai, Kahane lives on. Kahane lives on.
So basically, this organization is connected to the Trump administration, and it bears the legacy of Meir Kahane, who was the genocidal leader of Kach, which was actually even banned inside Israel for a time, and represents Zionism in its rawest form because it believes there can be no Jewish and democratic state because the democracy is a cancer within the Jewish ethno-supremacist state because it allows the presence of non-Jewish Arabs or Palestinians. And your film pretty strongly establishes that.
Yeah, Ron is, when we were doing the interview at his office, his 5W PR office, he talks about Jabotinsky, and this is his ideologue. This is kind of his, he constantly quotes him. He always refers back to him whenever he kind of like gets lost in a train of thought. But over the phone, the phone calls that we have throughout the film, he's more referring to Kahane than Jabotinsky, or he's just he's referring to Kahane. And that's, that's because you're not supposed to openly be Kahanist. This is something that is, let's say, it's, you're not supposed to. So in private, he's talking about Kahane this way.
And how would you assess the influence of Kahanism within the broader pro-Israel world after October 7th? It seems to me that it's become almost mainstream.
I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that, but
through your experience with Beitar, for example.
It's almost normative. In the sense that it feels like there can't be any consequences for saying just the most outlandish things because there isn't any consequences for saying those kinds of things. The stuff that they say online is absurd. It's not, it's not absurd. It's insane. There's been no repercussions. There's been nothing. They're a nonprofit. This group is a registered nonprofit. They're a 501c3. And so are like a bunch of other Zionist organizations that funnel money to Israel and to the IDF and to settlements. They're not unique. This is not a unique group by any means. Ron is a odd, strange character. He's very dramatic and theatrical, and he kind of has this presence, but I don't think Beitar is that unique of a group. The thing that makes them unique is how unabashed they are. They're just not. They're not how they have no shame. There are other organizations that do the same kinds of things that they do. Canary Mission does these doxes people, puts people on a list. They've been doing it for over 10 years. But they just don't. They don't go out. They don't have a public face. They don't go out in public and brag about it. The ADL has been putting people on lists since the 60s with Erwin Saul for 30 years, making lists. Like the ADL. The ironic thing about Ron criticizing what he sees as the Jewish left, which he sees as the ADL, which is absurd, is that the ADL has laid the groundwork for Beitar to do the kinds of things that they're doing. The ADL has been spying on U.S. citizens for decades. They have made lists of over 10,000 American citizens, mostly Arab Americans and Palestinians, and they've sent those lists to the U.S. government, but also to the Israeli government. And the ADL, Ron during our interview, Ron took every moment to criticize the ADL. He constantly criticized them. I actually sent you a audio clip of him criticizing them. I don't know if you want to play it. It's pretty explicit. But, you know, the ADL does the actual bureaucratic work that gets stuff, policy things done. And Beitar sort of cashes in on it. They can criticize them publicly, but really they have somewhat of the same, I don't, you know, they're working towards the same end in a certain sense. Yeah.
Well, sorry, I was muted. The ADL is like the uptown Beitar, and they have long-standing ties to U.S. federal law enforcement, the heart of the Israeli government, and intelligence. They have an office in Silicon Valley, so they're taking up all the space, and Beitar is trying to move into that space with a more honest, raw distillation of Zionism.
Yeah, and Jonathan Greenblatt, you know, when he was trying to talk about the media war or whatever, the information war, he was giving a speech. I think it was in Israel, and he references the beeper, this terrorist attack of the pagers and the walkie-talkies. He references it in this sort of like innovative, the way the media talked about it, you know, as if it was this innovative thing that didn't, maim thousands of innocent people. Like it was, it's absurd. You know,
he said, we need to embrace the same innovation that the Mossad employed with the pager attack in tamping down on quote unquote anti-Semitism, meaning anything that challenges the objectives of Israel inside the U.S. And here is a recording this is an outtake from your film on Beitar. This is a recording of Ron Tarosian that you taped during a phone call about his views of the Anti-Defamation League.
ADL called us an extremist organization. Did you know that? Okay, so listen to me. They called an organization that I founded, that I'm a member of my whole fucking life. They called us an extremist hate organization without so much as calling me. I told them, I'm going to show up in your fucking house now. You're speaking to me. I'm the grandson of Holocaust survivors, a student of Zev Jabotinsky, who you've probably never even heard of. ADL, he's writing a report. I'm going there to your face. I'm from New York. You're not going to tell me what to do. I'm an Israeli. You're not going to tell me what to do. How come I'm the only Jewish American parent to have gotten arrested? How can it be? How can it be? What an outrage. You understand, brother? Are you with me?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And what he's referring to at the end there is getting arrested at his daughter's university, for just doing whatever. I don't really know what he did, but this arrest led to him starting Beitar. It was a reaction. Yeah, it was a reaction. He says it in the doc. It was a reaction of him getting arrested, and this was what he did.
So Ron Tarosian, he's clearly unhinged from these interactions that you recorded. He's unashamed of his fanatical views, which have a lot of currency right now, particularly within the Zionist world. And a lot of these stories of his unhinged behavior, I first became aware of reading outlets that covered the New York PR, public relations and marketing world, because he was a major PR executive who represented high-profile clients in New York who were some of Ron Tarosian's clients. And what happened with his business?
Some of his, he runs 5WPR, which is one of the biggest PR companies in New York City. 5W standing for the five W's, what, who, what, when, this kind of thing. And his big clients, he represents a lot of entertainers. He's represented Snoop Dogg, Lil' Kim, P. Diddy, Pitbull. He has a lot of black entertainers that he's
Ice Cube.
And but also political figures too, like the the boxer turned mayor of Kiev.
Klitschko, Vitaly Klitschko.
Yep, and the Eric Trump Foundation, and other kinds of media syndicates like Sinclair Broadcasting Group and Trinity Broadcasting Group. These big media conglomerates.
Those are like Sinclair is like the big GOP broadcasting syndicate, and Trinity is, you know, Rexella and Jack Van Impe and Charles Stanley and all of the Christian right kind of hucksters.
Yeah.
And he also represented, didn't he represent the company that controls Pornhub?
MindGeek. Yeah. He's got his feet and everything. And McDonald, you know, he's done work with McDonald's. He got his start in PR. It always comes back to Israel. He got his start in PR with the Likud party. And before he started 5WPR, he gave a tour of, he brought Peter Vallone Sr., who was running for governor of New York in the 90s, and he brought him to visit Israel and to visit specifically as many illegal settlements as possible, including Hebron. And this sort of leads him into the PR business. He wrote a book. I don't want to, you know, he wrote a book, and you can read that.
Just sold him some books.
Yeah, I mean, me and Ron are good friends, and I think that I find him fascinating, and I wanted
You would say Ron is a friend of yours now?
I don't know. We haven't talked since the film came out. But
like, why did you go to the Grayzone with this film? These are fucking Jew haters who want us to put nails in the coffins of our kids. I mean, you don't think he'd be mad at you for making this? Or
I don't know. I don't know, man. I'll have to see. I haven't talked to him. I could call him, but
I would like to see the result of that. But again, I mean, you're presenting his real, authentic views without editorial filter, and it's not a hit piece.
I find Ron fascinating, you know, and I wanted to create a portrait of him and present him, you know, to the world, and that was the goal. I wasn't, you know, it wasn't a hit piece, and I don't even view it as an expose, to be frank. I just wanted to. I found his group really interesting, and the work that
I think it is an expose, because the corporate mainstream media will not do this kind of reporting and show everyone what Zionism truly is at the street level. They will not let them present their authentic views, and they will not say, Meir Kahane, he's pretty influential. They just won't do it. It's always an interview that's very sanitized with Benjamin Netanyahu and like Patrick Bet-David asking him softball questions. Some guy with the IQ of a toaster oven that Netanyahu hand selects. Yeah. And this, while not being a hit piece, is pretty, I mean, to me, it's damning because of my political perspective.
Yeah.
Are you an anti-Zionist?
Yeah, I mean, we can, yeah.
So you're a Jewish anti-Zionist.
Yeah.
How did you come to that point? And how did that influence your desire to better understand Beitar and make this film?
I made this film because I was full of dread and hopelessness every day, watching Israel commit a genocide, and I didn't know what to do. And this seemed like something to do, something I was capable of doing. Getting access to them is something that, you know, only you can't, as I said, you know, the requirements to joining this group were being Jewish.
Yeah.
And so I took advantage of that and tried to get inside of a group that most people can't access, and show it in its honest face. You're right. It is maybe you're right. It is an expose in that sense. And I came to the conclusion of how what I think, because I think it's obvious.
Is your family supportive of what you're doing?
No.
They're not. They're Zionists.
Yeah.
Do you fear backlash from this film, or fear for your safety at all? I mean, producing what could be seen as an expose of a violent group.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't care. I mean, it's possible. Yeah, it's entirely. Yeah, I mean, these people. Yeah, they do bad things. That's not too much of a concern for me, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about like, I don't know. There's something very inspiring about Palestinian resistance that has sort of inspired me to not really fear a person like Ron or Yoni. I mean, there's nothing they can do to me.
Yeah, I think when you see what they're doing in Gaza, it makes you more willing to make a sacrifice like this, in which you could, face consequences. But because I feel like we all have to do something. And one of the things you can do as a Jewish anti-Zionist is get on the inside where others can't. I mean, it was my horror at the first major assault on the Gaza Strip, Operation Cast Lead, back in 2008, 2009, that motivated me to do the Goliath Project and, go places inside Israeli society that I could only go as a Jew, and use my knowledge of that world to gain access and show people the real Israel that the rest of the US media wasn't showing them. I think real disclosure is a revolutionary act when we live in a society with so much censorship and conditioning and indoctrination and control, and particularly in the Jewish world with all the indoctrination that takes place there in order to maintain generational continuity. What you're doing here to me, is revolutionary. So there's a lot of people in the comments that they don't really understand who they are. They're suspicious, but you're a first-time filmmaker. So you're not going to be as gung-ho with your beliefs as I am. This is the first time you've kind of come out and done a public film project or any journalism. Is that correct?
Yeah, I just before this, I was just making comedy videos in Texas with like some comics like Casey Rocket and Union Brooks and Conrad Fagan, and these people that some people know, some people don't. But yeah, this is my first, I guess, documentary. Yeah,
it's very well made. I mean, it's almost like, we talked over the course of your production of it, but I don't think I had that much input. You would occasionally ask me some questions, but you were pretty much on your own, wherever you are making this. And I think just as a piece of art, it's very well done. And it speaks to me just as someone who's made films. You managed to convey the subject matter and the subject really well without any narration. It didn't remind me of the early films of Adam Curtis before his films became so convoluted and impossible to follow. Is that what you were going for? I mean, talk about your artistic vision.
Oh man. Yeah, I love Adam Curtis. Power of Nightmares is an incredible documentary. I love everything he does. And something that's cool is that the music that one of the artists that is in the film that I have that is licensed is Pie Corner Audio, which is a British musician who sort of that drone synth that kind of reappears throughout the film. That's a Pie Corner Audio is consistently in Adam Curtis's films. So that was like a cool connector kind of thing. Yeah, but I got some help along the way. I don't want to put a target on anyone's back, but David Sheen was incredibly helpful. Youssef Munier was incredibly helpful. Jack Polson was helpful. Jeremy Lafredo of the Grayzone was someone who I first got in contact with before I got in contact with you, and he kind of, his experience was very useful, and he was connecting me with people, and he was a great resource. He's a great guy, and yeah, I mean, it wasn't this kind of like singular vision. This project went through many drafts. I had a version that I was like in it and narrating, and it changed a lot, and I got a lot of help from my friends here as well through along the way. So I can't pretend to kind of have this vision of what it was supposed to be. It kind of just ended up what it was.
David Sheen's definitely an important resource. I wish he were doing more interviews. He's actually, despite being a friend, he's not accepting my interview requests, but he has a major project coming out about the temple movement and the real apocalyptic direction of Jewish-Israeli politics post-Netanyahu. I think it's one of the most important coming projects. So I'm hoping to interview him about that. And I can see his influence on this film.
Yeah, I had a lot more stuff about Kahanism that I cut just for time, but yeah, he was a tremendous help, and just in general, like alternative media that I've been consuming was a great resource for making this, the Grayzone, but also like Electronic Intifada, East is a Podcast, the Anti-Empire Project, Millennials Are Killing Capitalism, certain books, Our American Israel by Amy Kaplan. There's certain works, this book specifically, actually, From Underneath the Time Beneath the Concrete. This is a great book. I highly recommend it.
From Underneath the Concrete.
Yeah, The Time Beneath the Concrete. It's a fantastic book about the refugee camps and UNRWA. Just all sorts of just people making art and writing and speaking about this subject has been, it's the reason this project got made.
Amy Kaplan was a friend who encouraged me when I was younger in the work I was doing when she was at University of Pennsylvania, my alma mater. And she's unfortunately no longer with us. Her last project was about the power of Israel in the U.S. and connecting the Israeli colonial project to U.S. settler colonialism historically. So that's great that you mentioned her. Let's watch another clip, an outtake that didn't make the cutting room floor, but is pretty revelatory. This is Yoni Kletzel, Ron's underling, going to Times Square.
What's up? What are y'all action today, man? Do you think Iran should have nuclear weapons?
Every country should have nuclear weapons. Who the fuck are we to tell anybody what they can't have, man?
So what if they nuke the world?
That's why every country got nukes. They gonna nuke them back.
Owned.
So you think Iran should have nuclear weapons? No, do it now, do it now. What if they nuke you? What if they nuke you? What if you get nuked? What's up, Bob? I'm Yoni. What's your names?
Linda. What's your name?
Yoni.
Oh, Yoni.
Yeah.
That's a pussy.
I know. You are what you eat.
Oh, my bad. I put explicit on the... But yeah.
It seems like kind of a sad individual who's kind of lost.
Well, yeah, we did that after we went after the interview at Ron's. We went with Yoni and filmed some street interview content, and Yoni gets paid $8,000 a month, which to like harass Muslim college girls online and like do TikTok content. So, you know.
By who?
What?
Who's ponying up that kind of money? I mean, this is like we talk about the 7K cartel, 7,000 per post. I mean, he has to work a little bit harder than those clowns, but that's still a lot of money.
I mean, he's working for his checks, and Yoni, I mean, you can go on his Twitter X, the Everything app page, and you can check him out and look at the kinds of things that he's making. And you know, I don't know what I'm saying.
So what do you think should happen with this film project? I think there should be screenings. What would you like to see happen?
I don't know. I think people are watching it, so that was the first. That's good. I have no plan. I have no plans for this, really, to be honest. The goal was to get it on the Grayzone. The goal was to get it on the Grayzone, and that happened. So I'm in disbelief still for that. So I don't know what else.
Life goal unlocked. Look, I wouldn't have published it if it wasn't an incredible film. Like, I didn't know what you were going to hand me, and I was just like glued to my laptop watching it. It got darker and better as it went on, and you packed it all into an hour. And I think in an expert way, you knew what to cut out and kept the most important parts in. When I work, I do a lot of editing of, other documentarians' work, and I'm doing a lot of editing on them. There's a lot of back and forth on this. There was very little back and forth because I liked it so much. So I'd like to have some screenings. I think this is an important piece of political, an important vehicle for political education. So hopefully we can do that at some future Grayzone events, and you can participate. But yeah, thanks so much for coming out and showing your face and being with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I just wanted to, if it's okay, I just wanted to shout out 3 resources for Gaza definitely. That I think are important. The Lifeline for Gaza is a website that takes these donation campaigns and kind of filters them to arrange for like the last time someone donated. So some of them don't get donated for weeks, and that goes to the front, and that's a good resource. Rebuild Gaza 24 is a campaign of building water wells in Gaza. They've destroyed pretty much all the water wells in Gaza, so that's a great campaign. And there's one more called the Trahome. It's trahom.org, and it's an orphan sponsorship program that provides aid and housing for orphans in Gaza. So I think those are 3 good resources to contribute to donate to. Sorry, I just wanted to.
Yeah, no, thank you for those shout outs. I'm always interested as well in how we can get aid to Gaza, since it's still just trickling in. It's barely reaching Gaza. No rebuilding is taking place. Except by the Gaza municipality, which I've heard can be supported legally through the U.S. I remember one of the last conversations we had before you turned this film in. I think it was like during one of the darkest moments of the genocide. You basically asked me, how do you stay sane? Like, how do you keep going doing this kind of stuff? And it's like, by doing these projects, by doing the work we're doing. That's the only way I can keep sane. And also, I don't really know how to do anything else. So I hope that this project was therapeutic for you as well. It can be definitely agonizing to be a Jewish anti-Zionist in this environment.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. I mean, it's an honor to be on the Grayzone. This is crazy.
Thanks for joining us, and we hope to do more with this film, and I hope this is the first of many film projects from you, and we'll learn your last name someday.
Yeah, we'll see.
And someone said it's agonizing being any kind of anti-Zionist, for sure. I mean, it's probably more agonizing being a Palestinian anti-Zionist in the UK right now, where you can get arrested just for speaking. But yeah, thank you everybody for being here, for subscribing to the Grayzone, for supporting projects like this. I mean, this project is supported by people like you. And like this stream, we're suppressed. We are algorithmically suppressed, but we reached our 500,000th subscriber on YouTube, which means according to free press math, our valuation is something like $300 million. And we look forward to any Zionist billionaire buying the Grayzone tomorrow at that. Since we have something like 150 or 175,000 subscribers more on YouTube than Barry Weiss's free press. And I'll look forward to taking over NBC. And then we'll show this film at 8 p.m. on Monday. But in the meantime, we'll continue growing the Grayzone. Thanks a lot, everybody, for being here. Thanks to Eric Thomas, Eric T. Red, for holding down the chat. We'll see you next week. Oh, yeah, thanks to Aaron, who isn't here right now. Peace, everybody. And peace to Bill Ackman. Looking forward to your collaborations.